have a phenomenal show for you tonight. Our first comedian is a newcomer to the scene, but she is taking Central Arkansas by storm. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the lovely Kelly Collum.
Thank you to all my friends who came. At least I know I have a few people out there in my cheering section. So I just got back from a road trip out to Virginia Beach with my mom and my aunt. We went to see my cousin. My mom, she's really sweet. My aunt, a little bit more of a moody bitch. So this made for an interesting road trip. So the very first thing I observed was my mom wasn't going to be worth a shit to help me navigate on this trip. She is not tech savvy, so she couldn't put anything into GPS to find out where we were going. She couldn't Google anything, and she couldn't get her camera open fast enough to take a picture at any point. So the only thing I found my mom to be really good for on this trip was smoking up my weed. This bitch has been smoking longer than Wildy and smokes more than Snoop. So she had that part down. We make our first stop. We stop for lunch. We go in, and I look over, and my mom and my aunt, they're twins, and they're chain smokers with COPD. That's an important detail. So we make our first stop for lunch, and they have to have their cigarette break. I go in and I'm ordering. They go to the drink station, and I look over, and it's like they can't figure out how to operate the ice and water, and they had just descended in from Planet Moron, and they landed at Popeyes. So before I can even pay and get over to the drink station, they have made a huge mess. And I know right then I am on a trip with Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. So I instantly nicknamed them that. And they go from arguing about who made the mess at the drink station to which one of the two of them is dumber. So we get our lunch, we get back on the road, and my aunt says to my mom, "Do you remember when we ran away as teenagers and we hitchhiked across the country? That was the stupidest thing I've ever done." My mom says, "Not me. I stole a baby from a lady in 80. I was born in 80. It all makes so much more sense. So we're driving along and we're looking at this majestic scenery and we're driving through the Smoky Mountains, and I said, "Mom, look, open your camera and take a picture." And she looks at the mountains and she says, "Where?" "The big hills over there, Mom." So by the time she gets the camera open, she's missed the picture, and we ended up with a whole lot of pictures of the back of semis and blurry legs. But we got real tight on this trip. I got to hear all about how my aunt's hemorrhoids had been flared up, and she hadn't had a bowel movement in 3 days. Two shitty situations. Then she tells me she hasn't had sex in years. No wonder she's a moody bitch. But enough talk about the ass. Let's move on to the beaver. We stop at Buc-ee's. Who loves Buc-ee's? Well, they had never been to Buc-ee's, so it was my time to introduce them. And something wonderful happened in that moment because I was the one paying for everything on this trip, and I got to pull the shit on my mom she used to pull on me. You can pick out one thing. Don't ask for anything else, you get one thing. And I'm setting a time limit. You get 10 minutes. So we get into Buc-ee's, and they're walking around stoned and mesmerized, looking at everything. And they pick out their items, we check out, we get back to the car. My mom picks out a t-shirt. My aunt picks out a G-string. with Bucky on the Beaver. So we carry on with the trip. We decide it's time to stop for the night. They need a smoke break and to take a breathing treatment. So because my mom can't operate Google to find us a hotel, my cousin gets online and books the hotel for us. We get there, we're checking in. And my aunt says to the lady at the front desk, "So you have a pool and free breakfast? I've never stayed in a place this nice." Y'all, it was the Fairfield Inn. 3-star at best. I said, "Speak for yourself, hippie, I'm fancy." Then I proceeded to carry all of their luggage and their oxygen machines up the stairs with my fancy ass. So we get up to the room, and I'm carrying all the luggage. They're trying to get in the door. They can't figure out how to operate the key card. And it's like the blind leading the blind. I'm trying to explain to my mom how to get in the door. Tweedledum can't figure it out either. So I have to put down the luggage, let them in the door. We get in, they get their breathing treatment, and then they decide they need to go down for their last 4 cigarettes of the night before they hook up to their oxygen machine. So we go downstairs, and I'm watching them try to make their way out of the hotel, and it's just comical. And we see this really hot guy, and he sees them struggling. He's laughing at them, and he helps let them out the door. And about that time, we walk past. My mom looks and not so quietly says, "Damn, he's hot." Now, she was not wrong. She was not wrong. But he's with a kid and an old guy, and I'm with Dumb and Dumber. So, no way he's coming back to my room. Not even an option. So they go smoke, we take them back up to their room, we get them all checked in for the night, and I decide I need some time alone and to smoke some weed. So I go downstairs, and I walk out the door, and I look over, and there's the hot guy with his dad. And he starts waving. And I'm like, shit, he is really hot, but I need time with Mary Jane. So he comes over, he strikes up conversation. His dad goes in, and I said, "Look, I'm going to level with you. It's 4:19. If that's cool with you, have a seat." So he sits down, we strike up conversation. We exchange numbers and decide we'll meet for breakfast in the morning. So I go back up to the room, and I walk in to my mom and my aunt watching porn. I couldn't have smoked enough weed to prepare me for that shit. And walked right the fuck back out of that room. When I finally did make it to bed, I got to listen to the melodies of their oxygen machines in unison with each other. And although it is a chart topper, it is not my favorite song. So I didn't get a lot of sleep that night. The next morning, we get up, we go downstairs, and we run into the hot guy at the free breakfast. And I introduce my mom and my aunt to him. So he says, "Would you like to walk back up to my room with me?" Okay. So I leave Dumb and Dumber unsupervised, and I go up to his room with him. We walk in the door, and his dad is standing there in his underwear. And his mom is in bed in her pajamas. He didn't prepare me for any of that, and again, I couldn't have smoked enough weed to prepare for this. His dad looks at me and smiles and says, "Oh, it's you again." His mom looks at me like, "Did he get you from that Tinder site? Or maybe from that vending machine downstairs?" So I smiled sweetly, and I said, "I am just as surprised as you are. Nice to meet you." And I backed that ass up right out the door. Back to the vending machine where I came from. And I get back down to the lobby, and my aunt says, "He is handsome." When he smiled at me, I felt a little twinge down below. I said, "Are you sure that's not your hemorrhoid medication fucking with you?" So we get back to the car, we're ready to load up, finish out the trip. So we get on the road. Well, we get downstairs. And my mom and my aunt are smoking like the freight train's about to leave the station. And the guy catches me at the car. And he lays one on me. And when I look over, my mom is in the bushes with her camera open like the paparazzi, taking the damn picture. I'm like, oh, now you can take the picture. But then I'm like, but did you get it? So when we get back in the car, she opens the camera to look. She didn't get it. Blurry. So we get back on the road and we're smoking. My mom hits the pipe a little bit too hard and she goes to choking. She is gasping for air and I'm thinking she is taking her last breath and the Grim Reaper is coming for her ass. She is coughing, about 2 minutes goes by. She's coughing stuff up, hacking. And she looks at me and she reaches for the pipe and says, excuse me. I said, bitch, don't excuse me like you almost just didn't die right fucking then. Give me my weed, you are cut off. So I regain my composure, we carry on. My aunt reminds me, she's on day 4 of no bowel movement at this point. I look in the back seat. She is spread eagle, airing out the hemorrhoids. In the Bucky's G-string. And then she rips one. I almost ran off the fucking road and took us all out, y'all. I was scarred for life in that moment. We get out to Virginia Beach and my cousin tells me that she is going back to school to be a therapist. And thank God, because after this trip, I am going to need free therapy for the rest of my life. On one hand, I cannot wait for this trip to be over. But on the other hand, you can't make this shit up and it's gold. So I survived 8 days of the hostage situation. I bring their asses back home and drop them off where I take a 2-week vacation from my vacation. Where I celebrated the fact that I was stolen as a baby. And I'm not from Planet Moron. I'm Kelly, y'all. Have a good night.